Alright, let's jump right into a pretty chilling theory that came out of the Cold War. We're going to break down what former KGB informant Yuri Bezmenov warned everyone about. This idea of ideological subversion. He claimed it was a kind of psychological warfare that could, literally bring a superpower to its knees. So how does a superpower actually fall? Well, according to Bezmenov, it's not at all what you'd see in a James Bond movie. He argued the real danger isn't some spy in a trench coat stealing secrets. No, it's something much slower, much more subtle, and it's all happening right out in the open. Yeah, think about it. Our whole idea of spying comes from pop culture, right? Spies, crazy gadgets, stealing blueprints. Bezmenov said that completely misses the point. The real game, he claimed, was subversion. And look at the methods here. We're not talking about blowing up bridges. We're talking about things like student exchanges, media manipulation, the tools of ideological warfare. And this really drives his point home. He claimed that a staggering 85% of the KGB's time, money, and effort wasn't for traditional spying at all. It was all dedicated to this process of ideological subversion. Only a tiny slice, just 15%, went to what we think of as classic espionage. That's a huge claim. Okay, so what exactly did he mean by subversion? For the Soviets, he said, this wasn't some secret back alley plot. It was an open, aggressive, and even what they considered a legitimate activity. The whole point was to basically rot a country from the inside out, to destroy its core values, its systems, everything that holds it together. And this wasn't some new idea either. Bezmenov actually framed it as an ancient art, and he pointed right to Sun Tzu. The highest art of war isn't to fight, it's to subvert. The goal isn't just winning a battle, it's to completely warp your enemy's perception of reality, to get them to a point where they don't even see you as an enemy anymore. Maybe they even start to think your system is better. So how would they pull this off? Well, he laid out a very clear four-stage process, and he claimed this method could literally bring a nation to its knees without a single shot ever being fired. So let's break down these four stages. Okay, stage one, demoralization. This is the big one. It's the longest and, according to him, the most important stage. The entire focus is to just slowly, piece by piece, erode the moral, religious, and cultural foundations of a society. And listen, this isn't a quick thing. This takes time, a long time. Bezmenov claimed it takes about 15 to 20 years. And you might be asking, why so specific? Well, that's how long it takes to educate an entire generation of students, to shape their whole worldview and essentially cut them off from the values of their parents. He pinpointed these 6 key areas as the main battlegrounds for demoralization. The strategy was to attack all the pillars of a society at the same time. So, for example, you might push for changes in school curriculum that question the country's history, or you'd ridicule religious traditions to weaken those spiritual foundations. You hit them everywhere at once. The key thing to understand here is that this isn't about a head-on fight. It's much more like judo. You don't use your own strength, you use your opponent's. You find the cracks, the existing divisions, the negative things already happening in a society, and you just give them a little push. You help guide them further down that destructive path, using the country's own momentum to bring it down. All right, so after years and years of that, society is demoralized, it's primed for the next stage, destabilization. Now, this phase is way faster, maybe only 2 to 5 years. And the goal here is to just pour gasoline on the fire. You want to make compromise impossible and escalate every single conflict you can find. This is the point, Bezmenov said, where radicalized people get pushed into positions of power. Some of them might be actual agents, but many others are what he famously called useful idiots, people who don't even realize they're serving someone else's agenda. They grab onto any hot button issue, labor relations, social justice, you name it, and they just push for conflict, for antagonism, making sure there's absolutely no way to find a peaceful solution. So after that short but really intense period of destabilization, the country hit stage three, crisis. This is the breaking point, a moment of total collapse where society just stops working. And when that happens, the people become desperate for anyone, any savior to come in and restore order. This crisis creates this huge power vacuum, right? And he said that leads to one of two really violent outcomes. Option one, a civil war, where society just tears itself apart. Option two, a foreign invasion, where an outside power is practically invited in to stabilize the situation and end the chaos. And that brings us to the final stage, and the name for it is just deeply ironic, normalization. And yeah, that's a term he said was borrowed directly from Soviet propaganda. So let's be clear, this is not a return to normal. It's a violent, forceful takeover imposed by a new regime. The example he always used was the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia back in '68. The tanks rolled into Prague, and that was declared the new normal. And here's the final, really chilling twist in the story. Bezmenov warns that all those activists, those professors, those radicals who helped create the crisis in the first place, well, their job is done. They are no longer needed. And once the new power structure is in control, they are often the very first to be discarded, or as he put it much more bluntly, eliminated. Okay, so if that's the process, is there any way to stop it? Is there a way out? Bezmenov actually laid out a counter strategy, but he gave a pretty stark warning. The longer you wait, the more drastic your options become. So look at the early stage demoralization. He argued that at that point, a country could still fix things. You could restrict the foreign propaganda, you could return to your traditional moral and religious values, but if you wait until you're already in the crisis or normalization stages, he claimed your only options left are things like covert action or even full-blown military intervention. Now, obviously, this whole framework is a product of the Cold War. It was designed to explain the ideological battle between the US and the Soviet Union. But it does leave us with a pretty important question for today, doesn't it? In our world of social media, 24/7 news cycles, and global information warfare, what would these stages of subversion even look like now?